Hey guys, welcome to the Massive Iron channel. I'm Steve Shaw. In this video, we're going to explore the question, did Mike Mentzer build his base using high volume training? Before I get into this topic, if you guys would like a custom workout, please check out the link down below. If you would like assistance, if you're frustrated, I would love to help. Coaching is what I do for a living. All right, so I posted this morning over on Instagram at Ben the Barman. We are going to look at some information that I have been gathering on Mike Mentzer. I'm not an expert on his life story, and I want to put a caveat to this video. I have no horse in this race. I'm simply presenting this information for discussion. I would love to hear your opinion, so please drop it down below. This video is going to be a little bit more informal. I'm going to read you the information I posted on Instagram for education, for discussion, because Mike Mentzer is such a heated personality, topic of discussion when we talk about his heavy-duty training style. So I ran into this photo, Mike Mentzer at age 19. I had never seen it before. I'm a big fan of his physique. I think it looks great. But the article that this picture was from had a statement that I had not seen before, and it said Mike was spending 6 days a week in the gym, normally for up to 3 hours at a time. And you can see the caption below. Mr. Pennsylvania is Mike Mentzer of Ephrata, Pennsylvania. Mike is 19 years old, weighs 195, and is 5'8". So Mike was age 19 here, and he probably had roughly 95% of his mass, give or take. I'm not trying to create a perfect, guesstimate, but it looks like he had pretty much 95% of his muscle mass by the age of 19. So let's dive into some things and look at some of the quotes and information. Now, I'm no expert on Mike's life story, and I'm simply presenting this for discussion because I don't want to get attacked for presenting information. I'll probably get attacked for presenting information anyway. I've done my best to verify these facts, but many of them appear to be speculative, though very reasonable. It goes without saying that logically, Mike didn't develop his later generation training philosophies until after building what is fair to say about 95% of his muscle mass. So the heavy duty, the really hardcore type of training that Mike is known for, it's obvious and fair to say that he didn't develop that until he had the vast majority of his muscle mass. So this basically means he didn't build 95, 98% of his muscle mass using his later, more advanced training philosophies. Basically, he built them on the basics that you and I are using and the things I teach in the Massive Iron world. It's also common in the lifting world, and this is an important point and one I've made a video on before, for experienced lifters to evolve their training philosophies over time, often moving away from the methods that originally built their foundation. This is extremely common, and while I'm not criticizing this, it's a curious aspect of bodybuilding culture. Basically, if you look at the programming of any advanced lifter, it's going to look generally a lot different from how they built their base. They're evolving their training over the years, adjusting things based on injuries, adjusting rep ranges, adjusting based on equipment preferences. There's nothing wrong with this process, but occasionally it gives birth to somebody like Mike Mentzer who ends up with a training system that is so radically different from how they built their base that it is extremely interesting. So I went on to say you'll often see someone build their base using a conventional training style, then later promote a philosophy or system that looks very different from what created their physique in the first place. Again, this isn't criticism. It just seems to be the case with Mike Mentzer. Now, I have to state there are two different kinds of roads here, okay? You can have the road where you have the advanced lift, the normal road where you have the advanced lifter evolving their training over the years, evolving their exercise selection, evolving their rep range preferences. This is normal training evolution and something that is vital to sustainability and staying healthy and enjoying your training. This is not abnormal. This is the way things should be. Then we have the fringe case like Mike, that it's not just about simple evolution. We end up with something so radically different that it looks completely detached from how the individual built their base. Paul Carter is a modern example of this. His training now, or the things he pushes now, are vastly different from how he built his base. Not a criticism. We're just analyzing these things for discussion. So let's dive into how Mike trained early on. I have a couple of references. You guys can search these articles on the internet. Mike Mentzer's early training reality. Born in 1951, Mike built probably 95% of his muscle mass by the age of 19. That's the picture I showed you guys here, long before his heavy-duty phase. Multiple sources have stated from age 15 to 19, he trained approximately 6 days a week, up to 3 hours per session, pushing brutal volume and progressive overload. At age 15, he reportedly benched 370 at 165-pound body weight. So he was going hard and heavy very early on and probably had some pretty good genetics. It goes without saying, but I'm not pulling the genetics card here. Inspired by his idol, Bill Pearl, then a two-time Mr. Universe. So early on in his training, he was very much inspired by the classic bodybuilding style of training. So around 1971, he had won a couple competitions. I believe he was second in the Mr. America, AAU Mr. America, but I might be incorrect there. So he had built 95% of his mass by 1971 using this more conventional style of training. From 71 to 74, Mike had a layoff. I believe it was from an injury. And then he returned to competition, returned to training. And it was reported that during that time, he was using upwards of 2.5 grams of DECA per week, along with other compounds. Now, I'm not claiming that his muscle gains after 1971, any additional muscle gains after 1971 were from an advanced steroid protocol, but it's very, very likely that anything you see above the age of 19 was due to a very advanced steroid protocol. Now, here are a couple articles you guys can search on the internet. Number one is from StrengthLog, and number two is from Greatest Physiques. According to StrengthLog, Mentzer began training 3 times per week after receiving his first weights from his father. And during his 4-year service in the U.S. Air Force, trained 6 days a week for at least 2 hours per day, a far cry from the low volume system he later developed. Now, this is from Greatest Physiques. Similarly, Greatest Physiques reports that Mentzer's father bought his first set of weights, that he began training 3 times per week, and by the age of 15, he could bench 370 at a body weight of 165. During his 4-year Air Force service, he trained 6 days per week for up to 3 hours at a time. Now, again, I want to stress this is the only information I could find. These sources or this information was very hard to verify. It makes a lot of sense. It's very much common sense. I mean, it makes sense that Mike would follow his idols. He would train with more conventional training. And during this process, he built about 95% of his mass. Now, just some final thoughts from my Instagram post. Brian Borstein made a comment, and I decided to respond, and I want to read that to you guys here as kind of an end cap. I had a year of rest pause training in 2008 that I consider to be my best year of training. I really enjoyed it, and I felt it was productive, but looking back, I didn't quantify or track much at the time. So all I'm left with are impressions. I think it goes without saying that it's normal for a trainee to try different things over the years and evolve their programming to fit their passions, interests, and preferences. This is obvious stuff for guys like us who understand the process, or obvious for anybody that understands the process. Evolution is normal. So we're not knocking Mike for evolving his training. I certainly have nothing against Mike developing a system he liked and believed would benefit others. I've developed my own system, but by and large, it's based on the basics because that's where my passions lie. I just feel it's important to shine a light on these discussions, not because training evolution is unusual, but because every so often someone on the fringe like Mike Mentzer adopts a radically unique training style. And in this industry, that can lead to a lot of confusion and heated discussion. We're probably going to get some in the comments for this video. Paul Carter is kind of a modern example of this, somebody that trains so radically different from how they built their base that it's just incredibly interesting to watch all of it unfold. Let me know what you guys think. Drop a comment down below. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great day.